Okay, so, everyone's been talking about this Trump hush money case. And I got to say, when that verdict dropped, guilty but no jail time, I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's definitely a case that's got people talking for sure.
Right.
I think a lot of people were expecting a different outcome, maybe some jail time or a fine or something.
It feels kind of like one of those legal dramas, with a twist ending that you don't see coming.
It does, right? And I think that's why it's so fascinating. It really shows how complicated our legal system can be.
For sure. For
Mm.
sure. So before we get too deep into the weeds, can you remind everyone, what exactly this case was about again?
Sure. So basically, we're talking about former President Trump.
Yeah.
He was found guilty of making these hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. She's an adult film star.
Right, right. And the payments were made to, like, keep her quiet about an alleged affair.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where the whole campaign finance violation thing comes in, because these payments were allegedly made during the 2016 presidential campaign.
Got it. So hush money payments, campaign finance violations, that's the gist of it.
Mm.
But like we said, no jail time, no fines, nothing.
Right. And that's what makes this case so unusual. In most cases, a guilty verdict for a felony like this would almost certainly come with some kind of punishment.
So why was the sentencing so different in this case?
Well, there are a few things at play here. First off, the judge actually cited Trump's lack of criminal history.
Oh, interesting. So that worked in his favor.
Yeah, it seems so.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that the charges were specifically related to campaign finance violations, which, they're often treated a little differently than other felonies.
How are they treated differently?
Well, some legal experts argue that campaign finance laws are kind of a gray area, and that the penalties for violating them aren't always as clear cut.
I see. So it's not as simple as, like, robbing a bank or something.
Exactly.
Right.
And then, of course, you have the biggest factor of all Trump's status as a former president. I mean, there's just no precedent for this kind of situation.
Right. It's got to be uncharted territory for the legal system.
It absolutely is. And it definitely adds another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
For sure. For sure. Now, you mentioned precedent earlier, and I'm curious about that. Did any past cases or legal precedents influence the judge's decision in this case?
There are a couple that come to mind. One is the case of John Edwards. Do you remember him? He was a former senator and presidential candidate.
Vaguely, yeah.
Well, he was also accused of campaign finance violations related to hush money payments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really? So this kind of thing has happened before?
Yeah, it has. But Edwards was actually acquitted in the end. However, the legal arguments that were used in his case, they likely informed the judge's thinking in Trump's case.
Interesting. So it's like these cases build upon each other, creating this whole web of legal interpretation.
Precisely. And it shows how legal precedent can sometimes have these unintended consequences,
Like a domino effect almost.
Yeah, kinda. Like, some people argue that the leniency in Edwards' case, even though he was acquitted, might have set the stage for a similar outcome in Trump's case.
Wow, that's really interesting. So we've got the specifics of the case itself, the whole former president thing, and the influence of past cases. But what about the public's reaction to all of this?
Well, as you can imagine, it's been pretty divided. It
Yeah.
kind of reflects the polarization we see in the country as a whole.
Right. I bet there are some strong opinions out there.
Oh, absolutely. Some people see this as a complete miscarriage of justice. They're arguing that Trump is getting special treatment because of who he is.
Yeah, I can see that perspective.
While others believe the punishment fits the crime, they think the judge was right to consider the specific circumstances of the case.
Right, right. It's like everyone's bringing their own baggage to the table when they interpret this case.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. It forces us to ask some tough questions about, what true equality under the law really means.
Yeah, and whether our justice system is really living up to that ideal.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways that our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that this case isn't just about Donald Trump, It's about something bigger.
Okay, I like that.
It's a lens through which we can examine these broader issues of accountability, the rule of law and how we apply these principles consistently, no matter who the person is or how much power they have.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, just one more thing. This case really got me thinking about public trust in our institutions,
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more.
Well, when people see these very different outcomes in cases that seem similar on the surface, it can really erode their faith in the system as a whole.
Right.
Or-
Like if it feels like there's a double standard, people are going to lose trust.
Exactly. So the question is, how do we ensure that justice is not only served, but that it's seen being served in a way that maintains public confidence? That's something I hope everyone keeps thinking about.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me. It's clear that this case is going to be talked about for a long time to come.
You got it. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in to the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.